The first sign of the apocalypse was the smell. It wasn't the glorious, soul-deep aroma that should have been billowing from my station, a scent I had spent the last 72 hours cultivating. It should have been a complex perfume of wine-braised beef, roasted bone marrow, black truffle, and a dozen secret herbs, the very essence of my new restaurant, Aria. Instead, a sharp, acrid, and utterly alien scent cut through the nervous, electric energy of my kitchen. It was the sterile, corrosive smell of chemical betrayal, and it stopped me dead in my tracks. I stood before the massive, gleaming copper pot on the stove. It was the heart of my kitchen, and inside it was supposed to be my heart's work, the signature Grand Cru sauce. A decade of my life, my entire culinary journey, was distilled into that single, irreplaceable creation. But now, it was no longer a shimmering, deep mahogany liquid. It was a murky, ruined sludge, a brownish-gray slick of broken emulsion floating on the surface. My sous chef, Marco, a man who could tell the temperature of a pan by the sound of the sizzle, stared into the pot with wide, uncomprehending eyes. "Chef, I don't understand." The heat was perfect. The timers were set. No one touched it. But someone had. My professional training. The part of my brain that could deconstruct a flavor profile in seconds was screaming. This wasn't a culinary failure, a split sauce, a burnt base. This was a chemical reaction. This was a violation. My gaze swept across our pristine, state-of-the-art kitchen. Everything was in its place. The stainless steel gleaming, the staff moving with the choreographed precision of a ballet in the final minutes before curtain up. But my eyes landed on the bin by the main prep station. My station, peeking out from beneath a pile of freshly discarded parsley stems, was the corner of a plastic bottle, its label a stark, corrosive orange, industrial-grade degreaser, the kind we kept locked in the chemical closet. My blood ran cold. This was opening night. My life savings. My fiancé Liam's substantial investment. My entire professional reputation. It was all on the line. In 40 minutes, 80 guests, including the notoriously unforgiving food critic from the Metropolitan Herald, were due to arrive. And my signature dish, the one the critic had already praised in a glowing pre-opening feature, was gone. Annihilated. "Liam," I said into my headset, my voice dangerously quiet, a tightrope of control over an abyss of panic. "I need you in the kitchen. Code black. Now." He burst through the swinging doors a moment later, his face flushed with the exhilaration of greeting our first investors in the elegantly appointed dining room. "What's wrong?" "The fire suppression system." His smile faded as he saw my expression. I didn't speak. I simply pointed at the pot. He peered inside, his face falling. "Oh, God. Eli. What happened? Can we fix it? What do you need?" "It can't be fixed," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "It's poisoned." I walked to the bin, my movements stiff, and pulled out the bottle of degreaser. I held it up. Someone did this on purpose. He stared at the bottle, then at me. In his handsome face, a canvas of disbelief. Who a disgruntled staff member? Why would anyone? "Pull up the security feed for the kitchen," I interrupted, my mind working with a cold, terrifying clarity. We had installed the cameras for insurance purposes, a system that streamed directly to a secure cloud server. The feed from the last 30 minutes. He saw the flint in my eyes and didn't argue. He pulled out his phone, his fingers fumbling slightly as they flew across the screen. A few seconds later, he held it up, a silent, moving picture that would forever alter the course of our lives. The video, time-stamped just 20 minutes prior, was nauseatingly clear. It showed his mother, Catherine, Her elegant silk blouse and perfectly coiffed hair, a jarring anomaly in the heart of my kitchen. She moved with a furtive grace, ensuring she was alone. She pulled the large bottle of cleaner from her cavernous designer handbag. For a brief, almost imperceptible moment, she hesitated. Her eyes flickered to a small framed photo I kept on my prep station. A candid shot of Liam and me, laughing, covered in drywall dust during the restaurant's construction. A flicker of something doubt, a mother's regret crossed her face. But she visibly suppressed it, her jaw tightening with resolve. Then, with a cold, deliberate methodicalness, she uncapped the bottle and poured a long, steady stream of its toxic contents into the simmering pot. The phone slipped from Liam's numb fingers, clattering onto the pristine tile floor. "No," he breathed, shaking his head, his face ashen. "No. She wouldn't. That's not why." But I knew why. Catherine, with her old money sensibilities and ironclad control over her family's narrative, had never approved of me. She saw my passion as a messy, unstable trade, a world away from the respectable echelons of finance she had groomed her son for. Our restaurant, our shared dream, was, in her eyes, a reckless folly that threatened to pull Liam from his predestined, lucrative path. She wasn't just ruining a sauce. She was trying to burn down my entire world to save her son from it. The betrayal was so profound, so intimately cruel. It felt like a physical blow. The dream I had poured my life into was on the verge of collapsing before it had even begun. All at the hands of the one person who should have been toasting our success. Her act of sabotage was not just an attack on my restaurant. It was a declaration that, in her eyes, I would never be good enough, and she would destroy what I loved most to prove it. For a long, frozen moment, the kitchen was silent save for the frantic hum of the industrial refrigerators. Liam stared at the spot on the floor where his phone had fallen. His face, a mask of disbelief. He looked like a man who had just watched the world reveal itself to be a cheap, painted backdrop. She told me she was going shopping this afternoon," he whispered, the words hollow, nonsensical. "She said she was buying a new dress to celebrate you. Maybe she got confused, grabbed the wrong bottle. It was a desperate, pathetic plea for a reality that wasn't this one." A cold, clarifying rage burned through my shock, cauterizing the wound of betrayal. "Confused. Liam?" I asked, my voice dangerously soft. Did she look confused on the video? Or did she look like a woman executing a plan? I watched him flinch, the conflict warring in his eyes, the love for his mother clashing with the undeniable truth. For a second, I felt a terrible premonition that he might choose to defend her, to smooth things over. A pang of guilt, sharp and unwelcome, struck me. By forcing this, I wasn't just exposing his mother. I was forcing him to choose a side, a choice no son should have to make. But the image of Catherine's deliberate, remorseless actions flashed in my mind. The choice had already been made for us. "Marco," I said, my voice cutting through the silence, sharp and clear as a well-honed knife. "Get that pot off the heat. Take it outside. Scour it. I don't want a single molecule of that chemical left in this kitchen." Marco, a seasoned veteran who had seen every kind of kitchen disaster, simply nodded, his face grim. "Yes, chef." He and 2 other cooks moved with practiced efficiency, their shock replaced by the focused energy of a team with a new, urgent mission. Liam finally looked at me, his eyes wide with horror and helplessness. "Eli, what are we going to do? My father is out there with our investors. With her. First, you're going to pick up your phone," I said, my mind already racing, sorting through the inventory lists I knew by heart, calculating prep times, re-engineering an entire menu on the fly. "Then you are going to walk out of this kitchen, find your father, and bring him to the back office. You will close the door. And you will show him that video. No one else. Not yet. Do you understand? He looked at me, saw the unyielding steel in my eyes, and nodded. The simple act of him turning and leaving, of choosing to face the truth with his father, felt like a small, crucial victory. The moment he was gone, I turned to my stunned staff. Listen up, I commanded, my voice ringing with an authority I didn't know I possessed. What happened in that pot was not an accident. It was an attack. On this kitchen, on our opening night, on all of our hard work, we have two choices. We can fold up, go home, and let that woman win. Or we can fight. I looked into the faces of my team, seeing their fear and confusion. I don't know about you, but I'm a fighter. We are all fighters. We are not going down. Not tonight. A new energy, fierce and defiant, began to ripple through the kitchen. The grand crew is gone. I continued, grabbing a fresh apron. But the duck is perfect. The scallops are seared. We have the components. We just need a new heart for the menu. A plan B, a safer but respectable option, was already forming. Marco, with me, we're doing a rapid port and morale reduction. It's classic. It's fast. Sophia, rework the amuse-bouche. Add a component to buy us another 5 minutes. Be creative. Just as this new, frantic purpose took hold, a young hostess poked her head through the door, her face pale. Chef, it's Ms. Vance. From the Herald. She's here. She's early. The words hit like a physical blow. Of course, Catherine's timing had been impeccably cruel. The port reduction was a safe, competent sauce. It was not a showstopper. It would not be enough to impress the city's most ruthless critic. A new dread, cold and sharp, pierced my resolve. Okay, I said, forcing a calm I did not feel. Marco, the dried morels. The ones from the forager. Let's get them rehydrating. Marco's face went blank. Chef, I can't find them. I thought you moved them. Affrontique. 5-second search of the dry pantry confirmed my worst fears. The container of rare, expensive morels was gone. It was the second stage of the attack. Catherine hadn't just destroyed Plan A. She had anticipated and sabotaged a potential Plan B. It was a move of such cold, calculated intelligence that it almost broke me. For one single, terrifying moment, I felt the fight drain out of me. It was over. She had won. I leaned against the stainless steel counter, the roar of the kitchen fading in my ears. Defeated. And then, my eyes landed on a small, unopened wooden crate in the corner of the pantry. A last-minute delivery I hadn't had time to unpack. Inside, I knew, were the wild, golden chanterelle mushrooms I had planned to use for a special next week. An idea. Wild, reckless, and utterly insane. Began to form. It was a dish that existed only in my notebooks. A high-wire act of culinary improvisation with flavor pairings I had only ever dreamed of. It was a gamble that could either save us or make us a laughingstock. I looked at Marco, a wild glint in my eye that banished all trace of defeat. Scrap the port reduction, I said, my voice low and intense with newfound purpose. Get me the chanterelles. And the cognac. While the kitchen transformed into a high-stakes culinary laboratory, a controlled explosion of frantic, focused energy, Liam returned with his father, Arthur. Arthur's face, usually so genial and relaxed, was a thundercloud of grim resolve. He walked straight to me, past the sizzling pans and the flurry of activity, and placed a steadying hand on my shoulder. Elisa, he said, his voice low and firm. I have seen the video. I am profoundly sorry for everything. He didn't need to say more. In his eyes, I saw not just the shame of a husband, but the unwavering support of an ally. "Liam," Arthur said, turning to his son, "go to the front. Tell your mother there is an urgent investor issue we need to discuss in the office. Tell her it's about the Kensington property. That will get her attention. Be calm. Do not let her suspect a thing." Liam nodded, his face pale but determined, and slipped out of the kitchen. Arthur then looked at me. "Are you sure you want to be there for this?" I thought for a moment. The wild, earthy scent of the chanterelles now blooming in a hot pan beside me. Part of me wanted to stay in the kitchen, my sanctuary, and let him handle it. But this was an attack on my life. My dream. I had to see it through. "Yes," I said. "I have to be." We met in the back office. A sterile, soundproofed room of glass and gray furniture that felt a world away from the warmth and chaos of the kitchen. Arthur stood behind the desk like a judge. Liam stood by the door. A sentinel. I stood to the side. Liam's phone clutched in my hand. The damning video paused. Waiting. Catherine swept in moments later, a look of mild annoyance on her perfectly composed face. "Arthur, what is all this? I was just speaking with the Hendersons. You can't simply pull me away." She stopped as she took in the atmosphere in the room, the grim expressions on our faces. Her eyes narrowed. "What's wrong? What's happened?" "Sit down." "Catherine," Arthur said, his voice dangerously quiet. She remained standing, a hand on her hip. "I will not. Tell me what's going on. Has something happened in the kitchen?" "Yes," I said, finding my voice. "Something has." Catherine turned her gaze to me, her expression dripping with condescension. "Well, I'm not surprised. This whole venture was a dreadful risk. I assume one of your little experiments went wrong." Before I could respond, Arthur spoke again. "The Grand Cru sauce, the one Eliza has spent the last 3 days perfecting, has been destroyed, ruined by an industrial-grade cleaning chemical." Catherine feigned a horrified gasp, her hand flying to her chest. "My goodness, how terrible an accident. I assume one of the staff." This was it. The moment of truth. I felt a sudden, sharp pang of guilt. I was about to detonate a bomb in the heart of this family. Liam's family. The fallout would be permanent. For a fleeting second, I considered letting it go, finding another way. Then I remembered the cold, deliberate look on her face in the video as she poured poison into my dream. My resolve hardened. "No, Catherine," I said, stepping forward. "It wasn't an accident, and it wasn't one of the staff." I looked at Liam, who gave me a barely perceptible nod. I raised the phone, my thumb hovering over the play button. "It was you." Her laughter was a brittle, tinkling sound that filled the silent room. "Me, darling. You must be under a great deal of stress. That is a monstrous and frankly insane accusation. Why on earth would I do such a thing?" "To protect your son," I said, my voice steady. "To sabotage my career so Liam would come running back to the safe world of finance you built for him. You see, Arthur," she said, turning to her husband with a look of triumphant pity, "the pressure has gotten to her. She's paranoid. She's creating these fantasies." "Is this a fantasy?" Catherine, I asked, and I pressed play. We all watched in silence as the scene unfolded on the small screen, her furtive glances, the bottle emerging from her purse, her brief hesitation at the photo of her son and me, and the final, damning act of pouring the chemical into the pot. The video ended. The silence that followed was absolute, suffocating. Catherine's face had drained of all color, her carefully constructed composure crumbling into dust. Her mouth opened and closed, but new sounds came out. The denial was gone, leaving only the raw, ugly truth. I did it for you. Liam," she finally burst out. her voice a desperate, pleading shriek. She turned to her son, her eyes wild. Don't you see this world? It's not for you. The long hours, the risk, the instability. I was protecting you. I was protecting our family from her ambition. Liam flinched as if she had struck him. Protecting me, he said, his voice cracking with a pain that was agonizing to witness. You betrayed me. Mom. You betrayed Eliza. You tried to destroy the best thing in my life because you couldn't stand to see me happy on my own terms. Arthur finally moved. He walked around the desk to stand in front of his wife, his face a mask of sorrow and cold fury. For years, I have tolerated your snobbery, your manipulations, your need to control every aspect of our lives, he said, his voice low and heavy with the weight of decades. But this is a new level of poison. You have tried to ruin this brilliant young woman, and you have broken our son's heart in the process. You are no longer welcome in this restaurant. You are no longer welcome at our table. He looked at me, then back at his wife. You will go home. You will pack a bag, and you will go and stay with your sister. We will discuss the future of our marriage, if there is one, after you have had a very long time to think about what you have become. He turned to his son. Liam, call security. Have your mother escorted from the premises? Catherine let out a strangled sob as Liam, his face a stone mask of duty and heartbreak, pulled out his phone to make the call. She had lost, utterly and completely. I had won the battle, but as I turned to leave the office, the roar of the kitchen calling me back, I knew the war was far from over. I still had 80 guests to feed, a world-renowned critic to impress, and a menu to invent out of thin air. I returned to the kitchen a different person than the one who had left it minutes earlier. The grief and shock had been burned away in the crucible of that confrontation, leaving behind a core of pure, unadulterated focus. My staff, who had only seen a disaster, now saw a leader. They fell silent as I walked back to my station, their eyes on me, waiting. The air crackled with a new kind of energy, not panic, but the adrenaline-fueled anticipation of a monumental challenge. We have 20 minutes. People, I announced, my voice ringing with a newfound authority. Ms. Vance is in the dining room. Our investors are waiting, and we are about to give them a story they will never forget. Forget the old menu. Tonight, we create something new. Tonight, we are phoenixes. What followed was a masterclass in culinary improvisation, a testament to years of training and the unspoken, telepathic communication of a well-drilled kitchen team. The wild chanterelles, which were supposed to be the star of a delicate dish next week, became the heart of our new creation. We seared them in browned butter and cognac, the incredible, nutty aroma instantly filling the kitchen, chasing away the last ghosts of the chemical smell. We built a sauce around them, a daring, impromptu symphony of flavors, a hint of garlic, a touch of cream, a whisper of fresh parsley. It was rustic, powerful, and utterly honest. It was everything the Grand Cru, with its meticulous, aristocratic perfection, was not. As I worked, I could see glimpses of the dining room through the pass. I saw Catherine being discreetly but firmly escorted out a side door by 2 stone-faced security guards. I saw Arthur, his face a mask of dignified sorrow, speaking quietly with his investors, his calm demeanor preventing a full-blown panic. And I saw Liam, my Liam, standing tall by the entrance, greeting the arriving guests, including the formidable Ms. Vance, with a warmth and sincerity that belied the family drama exploding behind the scenes. He caught my eye for a second and gave me a nod of pure, unwavering belief. That was all the fuel I needed. When the first plates of our improvised main course went out, a hush fell over the kitchen. We all watched the pass, holding our breath. Minutes later, our head waiter came rushing back, his face beaming. She loves it, he mouthed, pointing toward the critic's table. She said she's never tasted anything like it. A quiet, explosive cheer went through the kitchen staff. It was the moment we knew we had survived. The rest of the night was a blur of adrenaline and triumph. The story of the opening night disaster began to leak out, transformed from a tale of sabotage into a legend of culinary resilience. Guests were buzzing, their excitement palpable. My impromptu dish, which we christened the Chanterelle Phoenix, was an overwhelming success. By the end of the night, we had a standing ovation from a dining room full of patrons who knew they had just witnessed something special. Months later, Aria was the hottest restaurant in the city. With a 3-month waiting list, the legend of our opening night had become our greatest marketing asset. Arthur had followed through on his threat. He and Catherine were separated, and she was in intensive therapy. He had become a silent, supportive partner in the restaurant. His respect for me, absolute. Our relationship with Liam, forged in the fires of that night, was stronger than anything I could have imagined. One evening, months after we had opened, a single, reserved guest appeared at the chef's counter. It was Catherine. She looked smaller, humbled. She didn't ask for me, but I knew she was there. At the end of her meal, she ordered the Chanterelle Phoenix. I plated it myself, making sure it was perfect. It wasn't an act of forgiveness. Not yet. But it was an acknowledgement, a recognition that some things, when put through the fire, don't burn away. They are transformed into something stronger, truer, and infinitely more resilient. Our lives are not defined by the moments we plan for, but by how we react when those plans are burned to the ground. Betrayal can feel like an end, but it can also be a brutal, clarifying fire that shows you who your true allies are, and what you're truly made of. If you've ever had to rise from the ashes of a dream, I'd be honored to hear your story in the comments. Your resilience is an inspiration. Thank you for being a part of this journey. And if our story of turning disaster into triumph resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing. It's a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful creations are the ones that were never on the original menu.